Lesson 3.3, adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Last time we learned how to add and subtract fractions, and if you remember, the thing to do first is to make sure the denominators are the same. When adding, subtracting fractions, make sure the denominators are the same. So let's look at this problem. 2/3 minus 1/2. How do we get the denominators to be the same? Well, we use a least common denominator. If you don't understand how to get that, please review lesson 3-2. The least common denominator in this problem is 6. So we have to change 2/3 to something over 6 and 1/2 to something over 6. 2/3, that's 4 over 6, and 1/2, that's 3 over 6. The denominators are the same. Now we can subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. We keep the denominator, we get 1/6. That's how we add and subtract fractions. Now today we're going to be working with whole numbers. I'm sorry, not whole numbers, mixed numbers. Let's look at this problem. 1 3/4 plus 3 3/4. I have a visual here. This is 1 3/4 and 3 3/4. When we're adding, we're putting these together. So let's put these together. Let's put these whole with the whole, and these fractions with the fraction. Okay, did you see what we did? We put the wholes with the wholes. So what we can do is put the wholes with the wholes. 1 and 3. What is 1 plus 3? That is 4. So with the fraction with the fraction. 3/4 plus 3/4. They have the same denominator. So we add the top, we get 6/4. So essentially we have 4 and 6/4, which is what we have here. 4 and 6/4. Now, you might notice that there is a improper fraction here. What that means, what we have to do is change this back into a mixed number. We learned how to do that a couple lessons ago. This is 1, remainder 2/4. So we have 4 plus 1 2/4. So what we're doing there is we're changing this set of 4 over 4. We're taking that away, and we're replacing it with a 1 whole. So we have that 1 2/4 here. Now all we have to do is add the wholes again. 4 plus 1 is 5. And the 2/4, it can be simplified. Simplifies into 1/2. And that is our answer. We have the 2/4 here. We replace that with the 1/2. So our answer is 5 and 1/2. So to summarize, we can add the wholes. 1 plus 3 is 4. Add the fractions. 3/4 plus 3/4 is 6/4. If there's an improper fraction, we change it to a mixed number, and we add again. We get 5 1/2. Look at the next problem. What happens if they have different denominators? Well, we learned last lesson that we have to make them the same denominator, so let's do that first. Let's look at 2/3 and 3/5. What's the least common denominator? It is 15. So we have to write this as 2 and something over 15. And we have to rewrite this as 4 and something over 15. How do we get the numerators? 3 times what is 15? 3 times 5. So we have to use 2 times 5, which is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. 3 times 3 is 9. Now we have the same denominator. Now we can add. We add the whole numbers first. 4 plus 2 is 6. Add the fractions. Same denominator. Keep the denominator. We add the top. 10 plus 9 is 19. We notice there's another improper fraction. We have to change that. we get 6. This changes into a 1 and 4/15, which is 7 and 4/15. Okay, here is 2 practice problems. Please pause here and try these on your own. I'm going to review the answers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Check to see if you got these correct. If you didn't, please review the last couple minutes of this video. Subtracting mixed numbers. Now, this is basically the same thing. We have to make sure that the denominators are equal. In this case, this problem here, they are equal, so we can just subtract. 6 minus 2 is 4. 5, 6 minus 1, 6, that is, keep the denominator, 4, 6. That's it. And we have to simplify. 4, 6, that's the same thing as 2/3. Ta-da! Simple. However, there are some subtraction problems where you can't do that. And this is where it gets a little bit complicated, and I'll show you why we can't do that. We can do 4 minus 2, the whole numbers. That's 2, that's just fine. But when we look at 1/3 and we look at the 3/4, how can 1/3 take away 3/4? We can't. So there's a problem there, and there's 2 ways of doing this problem. I will show you both ways. You can choose whichever one you want to use. The first way is to rename. Now this is essentially borrowing from the whole. What we do is we subtract a whole, so the 4 becomes a 3, and we use that extra whole to break it into thirds. So that whole that we took out, we break it into 3/3. We add this fraction, it becomes 4/3. This one we don't have to do anything, so we just keep this. And we're back to a subtraction problem. Now when we're subtracting fractions, again we have to make the denominators the same. The least common denominator in this case is 12. So we have to change this fraction into 3 and something over 12 minus 2 and something over 12. 3 times 4 is 12, so we take 4 times 4, we get 16. 4 times 3 is 12, so we take 3 times 3 is 9. Now the denominators are the same. Now we can do what we did up top in the previous example. 3 minus 2 is 1. Same denominators here. 16 minus 9 is 7. We put it over 12. Now the second method, which I prefer, is to use improper fraction. Improper fraction. And what this means is that you change both of these into improper fractions right away. So we use around the world. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13. We have 13. We keep the denominator. 13 over 3. Over here, 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. We keep the denominator. That is 4. Keep the subtraction sign. We have the problem written as improper fractions. Now we have to use the same rules. If we're subtracting fractions, we have to make sure that the denominators are the same. We have to find the least common denominator. That is 12. So we change this to something over 12 minus something over 12. 3 times 4 is 12. So 13 times 4 is 52. 4 times what is 12? 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 11 is 33. And now we have same denominators. Now we can subtract. 52 minus 33 is 19. And we keep the denominator. And we're going to rewrite this as a mixed number. We have 12 goes into 19 once, remainder 7, and we keep the denominator. We get 1 and 7 twelfths, which is the same answer if we do the other method. Now, whichever method is easier for you, go ahead and do that. Please pause here. 3 more practice problems. I'm going to show you the answers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Please check these. Make sure that you have these correct. Now, when we do the note check, this is what I will be looking for. This is where I will look for your work. Now, before we end the lesson today, I want you to do 2 things. We're going to do something a little bit different. First of all, I want you to go on Edmodo and reply to the quiz with a question that you have on the current lesson. Or if you understand everything, you have to respond to a question. So let me show you how that looks like. Let's go on Edmodo. This is the quiz that you will see. And of course, it won't say turned in for you. But what I want you to do is click reply. Now, let's say your question is, how do we rename fraction? That is your question. You're going to type it out. You're going to click reply. It's going to show up. And let's say you don't have questions. What I want you to do is reply to one of your classmates. You are going to see someone else's question, and you're going to write, Mr. Hung, in order to rename fractions, we have to blah, 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 and click reply. There we go. Second thing I want you to do is a quiz on Edmodo. So you're going to go back on Edmodo and take the quiz like you did last week. That is it. I will see you tomorrow.